The Auburn Tigers are nearly a touchdown favorite against Vandy.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me as he does every single Monday, Lindsey Crosby. You can find all this stuff at thebarnauburn.com and a million other places. Lindsey, we're going to talk about some of the recruiting news. It could pertain to the Auburn Tigers, as well as, man, those corners look good. The young guys, they shine so bright in Lexington against Kentucky in that 24-10 win. But I want to jump ahead to Saturday a little early because I'm a little surprised with what I'm seeing. Auburn, according to our friends at FanDuel, 6.5-point favorites against the Vanderbilt Commodores, a team that is red hot. I mean, they lost to Texas, but it was close. They gave them a run for their money, and they looked pretty good on Saturday. This is a game that I think most Auburn folks wrote off a few weeks ago, saying, oh my goodness, this is going to be an uphill battle. And now all of a sudden, Auburn is 6.5-point favorite, almost a touchdown favorite over Vanderbilt this weekend.
And that was a close game against Texas. I don't know if it was as close as the score makes it sound. Texas played a really bad game. Like penalties, they missed some early scoring opportunities. They really didn't. I mean, they had bad field position. I mean, Ewers was sacked 4 times because he was just holding the ball way too long. Bunch of holding. It was a sloppy game. Vandy is a legitimate threat. Yes, Vandy is a real threat. Is Vandy, you have to freak out if you're a top 5 team. I don't think they're that good, although they did beat Alabama, which,
Sure.
We'll always
thankful for.
Will always matter for something in Auburn. Yes.
100%.
I was a little surprised that Auburn was favored by this much. I don't know if it's because they're at home. I don't know if it's because they looked really good against Kentucky over the weekend. Maybe there's some belief here in Vegas that you've now figured out an offensive scheme that's sustainable.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is a little bit odd that the line's not only in Auburn's favor, that it's gone up from 5.5 to 6.5 since it came out.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, if Auburn doesn't perform at the level that they did against Kentucky, are they favored by this much? My gut says no. And I can't imagine Vegas's opinion of Vanderbilt dropped because of them losing a close game to Texas, where they set that line at 2 scores, and it was far less than that. So I can't imagine that this opinion is about Vandy. This opinion has to be about Auburn. And I say this more so for the but it's Vandy, but it was Kentucky crowd, which does seem to be dwindling, which is great. But the folks that say, well, you haven't done it against a good opponent. It's like, well, Auburn played Kentucky this past week. Like they can't do it against anybody else this past week. They played Kentucky and they looked great in the second half, particularly second quarter. Outside of the last 20 seconds, looked really, really good as well. Jarquez Hunter. I mean, it's just like all this potential energy was stored up, and he just went after it and had a historic night, which is super, super great. I think there's maybe some national belief here, which I think is something we needed. And if Auburn's going to make that bowl game, which is kind of this arbitrary thing of can you get to 6 wins? You got to win on Saturday. And I tell you what, Lindsey, if they win on Saturday, I think they've got a chance to make it.
I feel a little bit better saying what you did against Kentucky, and not that it was Kentucky, but it's the way you did it. I feel like for so long, this team, you won the games you were supposed to win for the most part, this season excluded, but it was way closer than it needed to be, right? And I think that's part of why I got so hyped up early in the years, because you were blowing folks out and it was absurd.
Right.
But you beat Kentucky the way that you should have beat Kentucky. It's like how you used to take down Arkansas under Gus Malzahn, his career options game. I want to show Arkansas, if I ever want a job, they should give me one. And he would destroy them. That's what it felt like. I do, on the line thing real quick, I do also wonder if they're baking in a couple points on Diego Pavia maybe missing the game. Because he left Vandy's game. He came back in after the 2-minute warning, but like he had a brace on. He wasn't moving really well. He looked to be in pain. I wonder if they're baking in him possibly not playing on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he looked okay after he came back in. Like, he didn't miss a ton of time. I think it was Nate Johnson that came in for like 3 plays or so, unless he went out again later in the game and I missed it.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. And also just the element of like, this has to be personal for this Auburn defense to get to play Diego Pavia at Jordan-Hare Stadium again. Kind of a unique situation, the beauty of the transfer portal era. I mean, there's got to be a little extra motivation this week. I mean, he embarrassed you. Absolutely embarrassed you. And there's going to be no sneaking up on this Auburn team this year. And I think that is an extremely important element of this Saturday's matchup.
Yeah, Auburn is, I mean, as close as you can get to a vengeance game, right? I mean, and there's no way Auburn looks past these guys. It can't happen. And I think the way that they've been playing, the way the defense has been playing, especially some of the young corners, we'll get to that a little later in the show.
Yes.
I feel like you have the elements, especially if he's not running incredibly well. You have the elements to contain them. Mm-hmm. The question is, obviously, do you execute, right? But it feels like you have a much better chance because you know what he can do now. You've seen it firsthand. There's always something different when you watch it on film and you watch a dude do it to you on your own field. They watch the dude do it on his own field. They know what he's capable of. There's no way Auburn looks past Diego Pavia this Saturday.
Yeah. So let us know, what do you think about this early line? Does Auburn really, like, should we expect Auburn to win by a touchdown this upcoming Saturday? With the way Vandy's played the majority of the season, the way Auburn's played the majority of the season, I don't know. Vandy hasn't been the same team outside of Nashville. I do think that's worth noting. And so this is kind of one of those things where, like, okay, yeah, Vandy was probably on a high this past week as well against Texas, and they matched them. I mean, they just kind of ran out of gas, it seemed like. I mean, Texas is just a better roster, a better football team than Vandy. No disrespect to the Commodores. I think what they did was wildly impressive up to this point this season. But, I mean, Auburn should beat Vandy. Auburn should beat Vandy. And the fact that we're even talking about this, like it's a shock that Auburn's a touchdown favorite against Vandy, is
frustrating.
It is frustrating is a very nice way to put it. Yeah.
This is not a place where it used to be, and it's not a place we should be very often.
No. And hopefully, that win in Lexington represents Auburn turning the corner. And if you beat a good Vandy team, you take care of ULM, and then all of a sudden you're looking at, can you win against a top, they may be top 5 by that point, the way they keep playing, top 8 Texas A&M team at home. It's going to be looking at Texas the next week, potentially. What a statement you could make there if you could beat them at home. Then, of course, you'll go to Tuscaloosa to play the Iron Bowl, and that game seems more gettable now than it did going into the season. So we'll see. There's a long way to go, but what Auburn did on Saturday was really big, not only for this past weekend in the season, but for the future of Auburn's football program. We jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Lindsay, can you imagine wagering anywhere than with our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook?
I absolutely would not. FanDuel has the best lines. Obviously,
Yes.
They think Auburn's going to be favored. Incredibly timely. They had it updated between when you looked at it and when I looked at it.
Yes.
Right? And it's right there on your phone. It's incredibly convenient. I could not imagine doing this anywhere else.
Couldn't imagine it. Won't imagine it. Like we said, Auburn is 6.5-point favorite. If you feel confident one way or the other about this game, go check that out. The over-under, 48.5. 48.5. So take that for what it's worth. If you feel strongly one way or the other about that, head over to FanDuel.com. Right now, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Zach Blackerby, Lindsey Crosby here with you. The young guys look so good. They looked so good on Saturday night in Lexington. So much so, we got to see more of them, which I think is something that we all should kind of make sure that we take, that we don't take for granted here. I mean, you look at a Malcolm Simmons whose snaps have kind of been in the teens for the most part. When you look at the relevant snaps in a game, he played 42 snaps on Saturday night. And I think there's two reasons why that's big. One is he's earning more reps. And two is Hugh Freeze said publicly at a presser, about a month ago, that it's taken him time to learn the playbook. This is a guy who did not go through spring. So it makes sense. A true freshman arriving late in the offseason process, now playing 42 snaps in a key SEC game on the road at night. That is this coaching staff's way of saying you deserve it. You have earned it. Welcome to being a key part of this offense.
And those snaps came at the expense of Robert Lewis, who only had 13 snaps in this game. And something we said after last week's loss was, if you're going to lose on a drop touchdown, you'd rather it be a drop Malcolm Simmons touchdown than drop Robert Lewis touchdown. And that's, he got the play time, 42 snaps, 18 pass plays, 24 run plays. I am a little surprised that him getting more time did not translate into more schemed ways to get him the ball and run plays.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but also like what you were doing was working, running the football, especially late,
especially in the second half.
Yeah. So for context, Auburn played 78 offensive snaps on Saturday. And I love that all 5 offensive linemen and Peyton Thorne played in every single one of them.
Yeah.
All 5 offensive linemen. But Bradyn Joiner, man, what a great story. Bradyn Joiner, Auburn's left guard, local kid. He commits under the previous regime, signs under Freeze. And this is a guy who, maybe he's got a path to playing time. They didn't really know exactly how they were going to use him. Backup center. In fact, I think he was the 3rd string center during either spring or fall camp when we were kind of being able to, watch these media viewing windows. It's like, okay, maybe one day he's got a shot. Mm-hmm. But you kept hearing how much the coaching staff liked him. And he just never really went away. And it's like, yeah, he might be in the 2 deep at guard, but this is a dude who just works his butt off. He works his tail off. And then you see him in the huddle, and I'm like, he's not as tall as the other guys, but dang it, he's trying so much harder than it seemed like everybody around him. And you could tell the passion, you could tell the effort, and the fact that in his first year starting, really first few games starting, may have been his first start, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, if you want to fact check me on that, Lindsey. But to me, what a great story Bradyn Joiner is in all of this. In this transfer portal era where, especially when Auburn went out to the portal and got all these experienced offensive linemen, no, it's Bradyn Joiner at the expense of Percy Lewis getting benched and them scooting Dylan Wade from left guard to left tackle for the experienced Percy Lewis that was kind of your NIL darling in the transfer portal. Bradyn Joiner comes in, and he absolutely excels. It was a huge part of this historic running game for Jarquez Hunter on Saturday night. I just rambled for far too long about Bradyn Joiner, but I think he deserves it.
No, it is his first start.
Okay,
he did play 62 snaps against Missouri after Lewis got benched, but this was his first start. Yes, 78 snaps. A lot of the work that he did, he was opposite of a lot of kids where a lot of kids come in, especially offensive linemen, and they have to bulk up. They have to get SEC size. He came in at 6'2", 344, and he's now listed at 328. So he had to do a whole body recomposition thing. He didn't see the field once last year. Right. I don't even think he traveled on away games last year.
He probably didn't.
But the dude has just done the work to physically get into SEC shape. And he went out there. He wasn't the highest graded offensive lineman. But like you said, he worked his butt off to even get out there in the first place. He has now played, I think, in all but 2 of our games. He's played in 6 games now, 236 snaps. And he's not a finished product, mind you. But he's out there. You love it. And the thing that I love, you've got multiple years of eligibility. So it's like Connor Lew last year, get in the starting lineup. And we said, hey, we're going to be able to be really excited about this kid next year because he was good enough to get in the lineup this early and he has time to get better. Same thing with Bradyn Joiner. He has time to get better, and you're excited about that.
Yeah, the offensive line is super interesting. Connor Lew, Bradyn Joiner, both have multiple years left of eligibility. We'll see if Connor Lew's here for multiple years, but he should be here next year, obviously. Jeremiah Wright somehow has another year, which is super exciting. But then, like you look at you look at Dylan Wade, like he doesn't have to go, and I love the upside of this offensive line, especially when you see what they were able to do against a pretty good Kentucky front seven this past weekend. So all of that worth monitoring for sure. Once again, context here is Auburn played 78 total offensive snaps on Saturday. So Cam Coleman played in 67 of those, which is super important. We mentioned Malcolm Simmons is 42. Perry Thompson still just playing in 4. I don't love that. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And normally I would say take some from Camden Brown, but somehow, I mean, I noticed Camden Brown a ton and he only played 8, but man, he made those 8 count, especially that key third down play. But one thing, and this does have to do with a younger guy who we kind of hope will be on the roster next year, or I think most people hope, but Micah Riley playing just 2 snaps, I think is interesting. And I don't know how confident I am that he won't enter the portal. And so I wonder if that was a message sent one way or the other. I don't know. But that one, Micah Riley is a name I think worth watching moving forward.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of tight end pass sets that didn't have Rivaldo Fairweather in there. 62 snaps for him. Obviously, he's going to be number 1 on that. Luke Deal, 39 snaps, but only 7 of them were pass plays. He was most win as a blocker. And then Micah Riley, both run plays. Didn't get a single pass play. Auburn just didn't do a lot of 2 tight end stuff. And so with Fairweather in the lineup every time, it's incredibly hard to take him out. And there's just, because you have more wide receiver depth, because Malcolm Simmons, some of his Malcolm Simmons snaps also came from Micah Riley Ducker.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the issue too.
Yeah, just based off of formations. Yeah, that's probably true. That's just, if you want Micah Riley to, you could easily get him snaps while Fairweather's on the field because you can move Fairweather around though.
Yeah.
Like if they wanted to get Micah Riley more than 2 snaps, I think they would have. I think they totally could have done that, especially when the game plan in the second half was to run the football and you want to put more tight ends on the field or more guys that maybe you can slot out and ask him to block downfield. Like I think there was room for him to play more if they wanted him to. I'm not saying one thing or the other. That was just interesting to me, and I think it's worth this kind of throwing out there. So
it is going to be frustrating if your top 2 tight ends and Deal and Fairweather graduate, and then Micah Riley doesn't want to stick around because of playing time. It's going to be like you're going to have a complete reset in that room, and thankfully you have the wide receiver talent to withstand some of that. But it's going to be frustrating because you've spent all this time.
It might be by design, Lindsay. They may want to, because they've got 2 coming in as freshmen, Ryan G, Hollis Davidson. And so, maybe that's part of the pitch for that.
It's so hard for freshman tight ends to make an impact their first year.
I'm with you. You've got to be and you almost have to do it as a receiver, not as a blocker, just because physically you're not quite there yet.
You're Brock Bowers kind of guys. Yeah, you're Cal Pitts kind of guys.
Yeah, right. So maybe that's by design. If Micah Riley does leave, or even if he stays, you're still probably having to go to the portal to get a tight end. And you could show them, hey, what we did with Rivaldo Fairweather last year, maybe that's intriguing. So we'll see. But I think that is a position group that is interesting to watch this offseason. And we knew this going into the season. So it's not like this coaching staff is going to be shocked they have to reset that room this offseason. But worth noting. The young guys played more on offense. They also played more on defense. And that's what I can't wait to talk about next. Auburn's elite corners. Over the summer, we talked about what this tandem could be, and they're years ahead of schedule, Lindsay. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at GameTime. GameTime is the best place to buy tickets, whether it's for football, for basketball, for baseball. Hey, if you want to go catch a World Series game, GameTime is the place to buy your tickets, Lindsay Crosby.
concerts, theater shows, whatever it might be. Listen, I'm going to Vegas in December. I'm going to be like, hey, what other concerts are out while I'm out here? I'm there for Garth Brooks, but what else can I get while I'm out there? Game time. Let's do this. Let's get in some shows. I don't know. Show me Penn and Teller or something. Let's go. Whatever we got. Let's do this. All I need for them to do is dinner reservations. That'd be the killer.
Sure. Yeah, I'm checking on the Game Time app right now, looking at Auburn Vandy prices. They're all over the place. They're all over the place. You can what's great though? You're gonna get the best deals on Game Time.
That's
right. Some of the curated tickets are, you're sitting in the third or fourth row for $120, $130. So be sure to check that out with our friends at Game Time. And you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Yeah. This is Locked on Auburn. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. The everydayers know, Lindsay, that I love Kayin and Jay Crawford. I think Jay Crawford's ahead of schedule. I think Kayin has snapped back from kind of his funk that we saw, that 2 or 3 game skid, because oh my goodness. And I know Kentucky's passing game stinks. Like, I get it. But we've got a chance to celebrate these young DBs, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Everydayers also know that in the Auburn media sphere, right? Zach Blackerby is known by some as the DB whisperer.
Yeah.
Man's a style maker.
You think so? Hey, you're saying that, not me. Okay.
Roger McCreary said it too.
Roger McCreary and DJ James they both DM'd me after they got picked. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So the interesting thing about this is Jay Crawford, for context, Auburn played 56 defensive snaps on Saturday. Jay Crawford, a true freshman, played 55 of them. That's insane.
I'm not a math expert, but that's all but one.
That's insane to me.
You know what's also insane, Zach?
I know where you're going. Do it.
He was the second highest graded defender.
Not where I thought you were going, but that's incredible.
Roster.
Yes.
So not only was he out there almost every single snap, he was better than almost everybody else. And in coverage, he was the best defender in coverage. 87.9 is practically elite.
Yeah. Yep. He was thrown to 6 times. He allowed 2 catches for 25 yards.
Not great. Yards after catch, 1.
Yeah.
The dude fell forward. That's it.
Yep. Kayin.
And Crawford had an interception too.
He did. Kind of kept Auburn in it early too. Yep. Kayin, once again, 56 snaps played total as a team. Kayin played 54. True sophomore. A dude who's kind of been up and down this season. He is up right now. Oh my goodness. He was thrown at 7 times and allowed 2 catches for 33 yards. And a pick on the fourth and goal to seal the game.
Yards after catch, 2. Dude fell forward.
That's
Dude
insane.
took a step and fell forward.
That's insane. Let's keep going. Keep going.
Hang on. The NFL passer rating when throwing to those 2 guys. Ready? Jay Crawford, 7.6.
Wow.
Kayin 7.1. I'll remind you, if you just throw every pass into the dirt, you will have a 39.8.
That's a wasted play.
Yes.
It's a wasted play if you throw one of those guys right now, the way they played Saturday night. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Kaleb Harris, true freshman. For context, once again, I cannot stress this enough. Auburn played 56 total defensive snaps. Kaleb Harris played all of them. All of them. Kaleb Harris is different, dude. He is different. And he could do so many different things. He's good in coverage. They didn't throw at him once on Saturday night, according to Pro Football Focus.
And
he's an effective rusher.
30 coverage snaps.
They didn't throw towards the freshman safety. What does that say about the respect offenses think about this guy? Can you imagine being an offensive coordinator knowing they're going to start a freshman safety, a guy who was the last addition to to a recruiting class? It's like, yeah, sure, we've got a spot, whatever. They know this. Kentucky knew that. And they said, no, we're not going to throw at him. Way to go, Kaleb Harris.
It's absurd. There's more, though, with Kaleb Harris.
Kaleb Harris is so... This is stuff that doesn't show up on the field, but based off of the folks I've talked to and some of the stories I've heard, this is a guy who is so vocal and wants to win so freaking bad. I want 50 Kaleb Harrises on my roster.
Just build the whole play out of Kaleb Harris.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
He's not just so a coverage guy, though.
No, he'll hit the crap out of you.
He had a quarterback pressure. He had a hurry. And he had 2 tackles. Both of them were stops. And not as in the guy went down, as in the definition of a stop, preventing them from getting whatever percentage of yardage they needed, blah, blah, blah. Like, he literally didn't do anything wrong in the entire game.
So get this. So he played this. This is just how PFF charts where where the way they chart what position you are on defense and offense too is where you are on the field when the ball is snapped.
Okay.
And so defensive backs, they move around based off of, they're changing a play or if they're disguising something until close to the snap. There's plenty of reasons why a defensive player would move. Of his 56 snaps that he played, 20 were at free safety. 4 were charted at wide corner.
Okay.
7 were charted at slot corner. 21, he was a box defender. And then 4, they have him as defensive line. I assume he was the end man on the line of scrimmage. Yeah, he was the end man on the line of scrimmage on those 4 plays. I mean, this is a freshman.
That is absurd.
That I think it was Dory Mayusi after the game where I think it was him saying, he was just like, yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm playing next to all these freshmen. Because these dudes are doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing as a true freshman on the road in the SEC.
He has more than 25 snaps at 6 different positions on the season. On the season. It is nuts. Wow. I mean, he's also on, he doesn't do it every single week, but he's played on all 4 special teams packages too. Kick coverage, kick return, punt return, field goal block.
It's just a football player, man. He's just a football player.
Again, build the whole play out of Kaleb dang Harris, man.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a lot. You could do a lot worse for sure. Other young guys that played a good bit, Kieran Crawford saw a larger role. He's a guy that you're really going to have to rely on because J Mac's going to go to the league. 28 snaps.
And highest graded defender on Auburn's roster.
Yeah, my biggest issue with Kieran when he got here, and there's only so much we can know without talking to some guys, and I did talk to some guys and they confirmed this, but early on, the containment, it's just, you could tell he was tasked with containment on a play and he would just let people outside of him.
Yeah.
That seems to have been better. He also seemed to be better as a pass rusher too, which is super, super, super important. Other young guys that Auburn's going to need next year, Malik Blockton played 18, which is solid. Keldric Faulk took over the game at certain points. I mean, he's just so stinking good. We all know about Keldric. Amaris Williams played 13, which you love to see in that situation. Sylvester Smith played 37. He got hurt and missed some time as well. So just the future of this defense, man, I think it's bright. I think it's super, super bright. We didn't really talk about DeMarcus Riddick, and we all know he's capable of more than what we saw on Saturday night. So I love this young defensive core. And if this coaching staff can keep these kids together, man, with the talent that's coming in this 2025 class, just watch out. Just watch out because these guys are good. They're good, Lindsay.
Very briefly on Riddick. 7 pass rush snaps, 2 hurries. That's impact, dude.
You take that.
That's 7 days a week and Sunday after church. Jalen McLeod had 2 hurries in 20 pass rush snaps. Nothing against Jalen McLeod, but Riddick's just built different. All these freshmen.
Good context there. Yep, that's good context there for sure. For sure. So which young defender are you most excited about? Let us know in the comments down below or on social media. Lindsay, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. You can get both the Braves Today pod and the newsletter, bravestoday.com, and all my Auburn baseball content, The Barn Auburn. We've got fall balls going on right now. They're playing every single week. I'm out there in the park to try to tell you what you need to know.
Yep. thebarnauburn.com. Sign up. The first month is just $1. That's where I drop my team nuggets as well. So be sure to check that out. thebarnauburn.com. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.